Okay, so we're ready to go. Hi everyone and welcome. And today we are going to talk about or present to you what happened with the website after the launch and at the launch with the launch campaign. So first of all, I'll go through a little bit of a background because I think it's good to recap what happened up until the launch. We're going to go through the launch campaign. Then Misha will be talking about the web content analysis for May. And then we'll look what's going to happen next. So what kind of website improvements have we planned for? And of course, then have some questions and feedback from you. So let's get going. Just to recap, we worked in a project team to build a new website. And the project team was leading the work together with the agency Soapbox. We then worked closely together with the steering committee, who was the executive team, and they gave us strategic guidance, and they also had, took the final decisions. Of course, we also worked with the management team, and we created a stakeholder reference group, a cross-functional team with representatives from all the centers that we then had advisory team meetings with to ensure that we really got all the feedback from all the centers and our internal needs. Important for us was that we, of course, built on the digital redesign phase 1 project. It was a big pre-study done with lots of internal discussions and interviews and making sure that we understood the internal needs. But it was also looking into the knowledge that we had internally about the target audiences. So of course we took that and we built on it. So we did then after that a user survey with external people in our target audiences to ensure that we really got the insights of their needs and also their digital preferences. When we then had what we call the wireframes, the blueprint of the website, we did some user testing to ensure that the navigation was working. So it's actually just a blueprint before we had the design. But ensuring that the user experience was a good one with the design, with the navigation. Sorry. Then we did peer website analysis of 8 other organizations to have a look at what did they do that was good. How could we get inspiration from what others are doing to benchmark against that, but also look at the things that they might not be doing very well and learn from that. And then, of course, throughout the project, we've had internal discussions and made sure that we all the time were aligned with the organization and our needs. We have an overarching web strategy to deliver a compelling experience and provide a home for SCI's thought leadership on environment and development issues, offer ongoing improvements in user experience, meeting the user needs, will be of central importance, and the site will enhance the perception of the SCI brand. Important. We will enable our employees to produce and share knowledge more effectively and mobilize the diverse and authentic voices within the organization. And we will be a high-performance hub for communication that enables SCI to deliver on its aim to bridge and connect the worlds of science and decision-making. So, let's have a look at the launch campaign. First of all, let's take a look at the goals with the campaign. I think you might have seen this before, but let's run through it anyways. So it is 2 goals. Build brand awareness using the new SCI visual identity and ensure that we had a successful launch of the new website. And what does that mean? Well, we wanted to drive traffic to the website to ensure that our audiences got to experience it. And we also wanted them to sign up to the newsletter because that was also proof that they liked what they saw. So we built some KPIs. On objective 1, we had 2. So increase the number of followers on Twitter and Facebook by 10% was what we wanted, which is a good goal. And we wanted to create awareness by high impressions of our tweets and posts. We didn't have a number in there because I just didn't know what to expect. We haven't done this before, so we needed to be a little bit fair to ourselves. For the second objective, we wanted to increase traffic to the website by 30%, which is a pretty high set of goal. And we wanted to get 200 new subscribers to the newsletter. The channels that we used were social media, newsletters, and websites, because we also did a teaser on the old site to build up to the launch campaign. And we had activities, inspirational ones. You've seen this before, more brand awareness focus of tweets and the newsletter and the news item and the blog, but also more call to action, focused on the topics. And the first one was taken out. So, we need to be adaptive and be a little bit flexible. So we couldn't do the first one. But we did the newsletter and targeted a Twitter campaign and a targeted Facebook campaign. What that means is that it's a sponsored ads, and I'll get to that because we have some interesting things to have a look at. On the content perspective, we used 2 separate sets of contents. The first one was awareness focused with animated GIFs and videos. And the second one was a range of topic-specific static images to go with our tweets and posts. We also worked a lot with audience targeting. So we used geographical targeting, gender-based targeting. You see what that means, and the topic-based targeting, and also proximity-based targeting. You can go through that a little bit later. I'm looking at the time. So some of the results, right? We want to see how we did. First of all, I just want to say that you helped in this. This was truly a joint effort because we had so many people, internal people, helping us to spread the word. And it was really great. We could see that helped us to reach the audiences. And that, of course, meant that others helped us spread the word as well. So we could see that we really got the message out via you guys as well. So thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate it. On the objectives, the objective 1, to raise awareness. When it comes to Facebook followers, we increased the Facebook followers by 1,259. That's 28%, which is really good. Twitter followers, we only increased by 272 followers, which is only 1%. That was below the KPI.
This is in 1.5 months, 2 months?
No, it's only for 3 weeks where we had this very intense campaign, but that's a good question. So the question was how long the campaign ran for. When it came to impressions, I was kind of blown away by the number of impressions that we got.
Sorry, what's an impression?
An impression is the number of times that our ads got to be seen on screen to users. So Facebook gave us almost 6.7 million impressions, while Twitter only gave us 307,000. But I also want to say that when it came to spending, we spent much more on Facebook than we did Twitter because of the results. So we were adaptive in the way that we saw that Twitter didn't give us as much as Facebook did. So we only spent about 15% of the budget on Twitter. I thought we would have about 50-50, but because I'll show you why that is. What was also interesting was that on Facebook, most impressions that we received were in low and middle income countries. Sorry about the arrows, they're kind of off. So we kind of worked with that. I'll show you that. So before the campaign, as you can see here down on the during the years, we had about an average of 3,700 users per week. During the campaign, we had weekly average users of 36,200 users. So almost 10 times during these 3 weeks, with a top of 43,778 users the second week, which is amazing. I would never have thought that that was possible. So I'm not going to go through this because it's horrible. I just want to show you this, that this is a reason. This is the average cost per click, because of course we wanted to drive traffic as well to the website. The average cost per click was just too high on Twitter, so we moved the spending to Facebook instead. So let's have a look. We've been through it, but a summary of the results. So look at the first one. Increase the number of followers on Twitter and Facebook by 10%. Twitter, we didn't make it, so only 1%. But on Facebook, 28%, which is great. Create awareness by high impressions of our tweets and posts. Again, I was blown away. I was really happy with the results that we got on that one. And increased on traffic by 30%. We kind of went above that. And signing up to newsletters, we got 581 new subscribers during these 3 weeks. So we did a really good job.
Well done.
Yay! We also have, of course, some lessons and observations, because you should always have, look back and see what can we learn if we're going to do something similar next time. First of all, think hard about the geographical targeting, because we broke the ad groups into different income levels, because we knew about this beforehand, that it's always more expensive to target high-income countries. So if we didn't do the breaking it down by incomes, we would have ended up spending all our monies on the low-income countries, because Facebook wants you to get as much as possible for your spending. So we needed to do that first. We actually, because we got such a good results in the middle-income countries, we actually split that up as well to ensure that we kind of saw what kind of results and did more analysis of it. We saw that cost for impressions or clicks was higher as we went up the income scale, but Facebook algorithm optimizes for the lowest cost. So that was why we needed to do this kind of groups. And of course, then allocate extra funds for high-income countries if you want to target that audience. What was very interesting was that the first week we actually identified an issue. Because ads were shown only 20% to women. And we didn't understand why. So we tested some hypotheses the second week. First, we kind of looked into if it could be something about our page followers, because we did mirroring on our page followers to try to find similar organizations and users, depending on those that were following our account. But that did not make it. Our page followers had a higher engagement from women already, so that was not the case. So on topics, we did some testing for that, but we didn't find an obvious correlation for that as well. Well, the health ad actually did seem to attract a little bit more women, but it wasn't 50-50 in any way. And we did some type of ads that we also tested, but we just didn't find any clear correlations on that as well. So the conclusion is that just as with regions, women cost more to target. That's why the third week we actually targeted women in some of the ads. What was kind of interesting though, that again, Facebook kind of does its own thing. So the ads that we targeted for women, of course, did great with the women. But those that we didn't do anything with, that would have pretty much like week one we would have thought it would get 20% of the users from women, did like 0% of women. So again, Facebook does things behind the scenes that you can't really do things about. But we worked with it and at least increased it the third week. And I need to run through a little bit here. Bring the content to the audience, not the audience to the content. It's also lessons that we learned, because the first week we wanted to start a little bit small, so we learned along the way, and we focused on one of the ads and tried to optimize the audience for that ad. And of course, that we wanted to reach all the audiences. We twisted it around for the next week and ensured that we did the best we can with audiences instead to get the best results. So, as a summary, these were the 3 animated GIFs that we did. And the second one in every audience group, which was kind of interesting. These are the awareness campaigns. And of course, then the week 3, we kind of optimized for that one to ensure that we got the best results.
Why? Because the women, there were some people up close, or how do you figure that? Why did that one win?
That analysis needs to be taken, because
We'll just say this because of the people.
yeah, it could also be that it takes new angles. This new is always interesting, but can look into that and more. Okay, so just my last slide on that is to have a clear view of success as well when you start doing campaigns. We tested both the awareness campaign and what they call conversion campaigns on Facebook and Twitter. And they actually did that. So if you have an awareness campaign, you're going to get more impressions. If you have a conversion campaign, you're going to get more clicks. So beware what the kind of campaigns that you use. And you could also, if you wanted to optimize for engagement on the site, but then you need to install Facebook Pixel, which is of course okay, and you can do that, but we didn't do that for this campaign.
What is that?
It's a code that you add to your website so that Facebook can also measure what happens on your site. Otherwise, of course, they can only measure what happens within their own system. Okay, next.
All right.
Some information from Misha.
Audio is good. Okay, so Moa has shown you the really exciting stuff. I'm going to show you a bit more business as usual stuff. So this is the structure of a report that will be done every month about what has been effective web content on our website. And what you'll see here is for the period of May. Now, first of all, a bit of an overview of how website traffic was in May. So by this time, the brand awareness campaign had finished. And so what we're seeing is a fairly common sort of up and down of web traffic. So the line that you see in blue is page views on our website. So this is sei.org. It's not any of our other partner project websites, anything like that. It's not social media. This is just sei.org. And we always have a dip on the weekend. That's normal for most organizations, actually. It's not entirely normal. We did have a spike on the 21st of May when we sent out an email to all of our website newsletter subscribers, asking them if they wanted to remain on our newsletter subscriber list to be in line with GDPR. I'm sure you've gotten lots of those emails as well. So everyone who clicked yes, I want to continue receiving it, ended up on a page on our website. About 1,500 people clicked yes, which is, I think, pretty fantastic. So that's the spike that we see at the middle there. Now we had 71,000 page views in May. It was a lot less than the page views we had the previous month because we didn't have a paid launch campaign. So it says we had a 48% decrease in web traffic. That's okay. We're kind of we're fine with that. It was a 28% increase on the web traffic that we had this time last year. Now, that's not entirely because of our fantastic new website. We have had an increase of traffic over time since last year. So it will be really interesting to see what those numbers look like next month. But it's worth keeping in mind that when we launch a new website, there are a number of different factors, both good and bad, that will impact on the web traffic. So I'll get you in a sec. So when when you change your web address, so we change from SCI International to sci.org, it will take some time for Google to send people to the right place and rank us appropriately in their search engine. So that's a downside. An upside is that we have a much shorter URL that will be in our benefit in the long term. So many different factors. It's not going to instantly be the picture of what the new website has given us. Question.
Can you tell what share of these page views are internal?
Oh, we've filtered out for internal traffic, yes, and filtered out for bots, but that does not cover people who might be working at home, for instance. So it's a mostly filtered out view. Yeah.
But at least all our activity in the office
should be gone. Yeah.
Repeat the question.
Oh, sorry, for those watching. The question was, does this filter out traffic of people who are internal? And the answer is yes, it should get rid of them. Okay, just a couple other quick points before we move on to the content itself during May. One is that our top 3 countries were the US at around 17% of our traffic, Sweden at around 16%, and the UK at around 7%. I don't actually know if these numbers have changed that much this month. That's going to be something that's interesting to look at over time. I don't think it has changed very much, actually. And then we have devices. So 74% of our traffic are coming on desktop devices and almost a quarter on mobile, which I think is actually a little bit low. And so I expect that number to go up now that we have a website that actually works well on mobile.
And do you have something to say about the average session duration?
Okay, so yeah, the question was about the average session duration. I've put that in there. I don't know if I have anything to say about it right now. I think that that's a fairly good number.
Yeah.
So most people, when they come to the site, the average is they spend around 2 minutes on the site. I think that's pretty good, but it will be interesting to see what happens next month as well.
Do you have a comparison with the old website?
We
Yes.
could get one, yeah.
And yes, I know that it was about 2 minutes on the old one as well. So it's pretty much the same.
Okay, so now we're going to have a look at some individual...
themselves so much more now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We're going to have a look at some individual pieces of content. Now, I've done plenty of web content analytics reports before. Never in my life have I written a methodology, but I know you guys. So I've put together a methodology. When you read this, when you get the report, you can see how I've put together these stats. And one of the reasons why I think it's useful is effectiveness of content can be measured in so many different ways. This is not perfect. So the rough idea is that the effectiveness of a piece of content is largely based on how popular that piece of content was in its first week after being published on the website. So this is only covering things that have a timeliness aspect to it: features, publications, perspectives, press releases. No project pages, people pages, and so on, because they're fairly static over time. There's some more details in there, and we'll probably change it with each month as we sort of see what actually is good in terms of good web content. There are a few limitations that I found in doing this, so we will adjust it somewhat. But the top piece of web content for May was this feature from SCI US on Canadian oil sands production. So this was a summary and some interesting pieces about a publication that was put online at the same time. It was extremely time sensitive. I think it went out to the media as well. And Peter Eriksson, who I think was the author or the co-author, was on the TV talking about this as well. We had a lot of traffic from Twitter. And so there was all this at the very beginning of a piece of content, and that's great. That's usually a really good sign that it's going to perform well, because once something's been up for a few days, if it hasn't really been distributed very much, then it loses some of that momentum or possible momentum. So that worked really well. It did not perform very well on Facebook or LinkedIn. So that's interesting, but it still was a really, really good piece of content in terms of page views and average time on page and so on. So here are a couple of pieces of promotional content for this piece. On the left, we have from SEI Climate a tweet which had 54 retweets, which is very good for us. It also went out in the May newsletter, and that has skewed its effectiveness score a little bit because this happened less than a week, within the first week of this piece of content's lifespan. It was chosen to go out in the newsletter in this way because it was performing so well, but this has also skewed its results because some pieces of content that are in the newsletter have not been around for more than a week, so that would not have affected their effectiveness score, which is that thing in the corner. So that's a limitation we're aware of. Okay, number 2, we have a perspective that was written by Chris West on sustainable diets. This was interesting because it was actually posted on The Conversation in March, so it was an older piece of content, but it made its debut on the SEI website in May. But it was incredibly successful on Facebook and on LinkedIn. We got a lot of traffic that way. It's not targeted to our usual audience group though, so this is more towards consumers than policymakers and so on. So that's something that maybe we need to keep in mind with. Is this really an effective piece of content? Well, for some people, yes. Other people, maybe not so much. But we definitely saw a lot of traffic come to it from the website. So you can see on the left, we have the Facebook post had 63 likes, which is very good for us. And on LinkedIn, 32 likes, which is also quite good. Number 3 was a perspective out of SEI Asia, where Babette wrote on the SEI forum on gender equality. This was interesting because every time we promoted it, it seemed to go really well. It didn't matter if it had been up for a few days, every time we pushed it out, it seemed to get a really good reaction. So I think that this is not only a really good piece of content for May, it's potentially a good piece of content for a longer term period, which is not that common. Yeah, so that's that one. I think I put in, there's an error here. It should say that on Facebook it got 30 likes, but that's still very good for us. And it was included as a smaller item in the SEI newsletter. Then we have our first publication in the rankings, but this one's not in English. So now this is a worthy piece of content to be in the rankings, but I was very surprised because our website is catered to a global audience. English is the default language. It's not super easy to find English content. You have to filter for Swedish or see it in your region section or have a direct link to this content. So the traffic that we got to this piece of content was largely from people linking to it. So this was a report on consumption co-authored by WWF. Funded, sorry. Thank you, I should change that. So that did very well, surprisingly, given the language. And what would actually be ideal in these cases is we would write an English promotion of this content as well to go alongside the Swedish piece of content. It doesn't always happen due to time considerations, or maybe the audience is not the right audience. There are many factors there, but because the site caters more to an English audience, that's generally my suggestion. So we've got a tweet on the left from SEI Forskning. It got 20 retweets, which is quite good. And there was a press release that went out as well. And then number 5 is this perspective. Now you might be noticing that the perspectives are actually appearing quite a lot in these rankings. I think for next month I'm going to adjust the formula a bit because perspectives cater for a different audience. It's more general. It's they often build on the publications. So I think I do need to adjust that for next month. But in any case, they're still really well-performing pieces of content overall. So this one was from Kevin Adams, and it got good attention on all our social networks. So that's why we had a lot of traffic to that one. So 20 likes on its LinkedIn post, and there were a few tweets that all did moderately well, similar to Babette's piece. So this one had 8 retweets and 16 likes. So that's the top 5 pieces of content on the website in May. you will be able to get these reports every month. Watch out for it on Yammer. I'll probably email the first one so you can know where to find them. If you want more detailed analysis about a particular piece of content, then that's something that we can do outside of this process, but as a billable piece of work. If you had a particular publication and you really want to know more of the detailed statistics and not just the overview, that's something we can do as well. All right, so that's it from me. Back to Moa.
Thank you, Sir Nisha.
Oh, yes.
I didn't fully understand. So if we want to have just the overview like what's presented now for a publication that is not in the top 5, we can have it. But if we want more detail, then it has to come with product number.
I mean, if you just want page views in a certain month or something, we can do that. That doesn't take very long. But if you want more of an analysis of how the traffic got there and that sort of thing, then yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you, Misha. So looking ahead, we are fully aware when we built the website that it would never be perfect. And this is an ongoing project. We're going to be improving it, over time, all the time. So I'm going to be presenting the improvements that we have in plan that are being built right now. Most of them will be hopefully done by summer. And there are a few that will be done in August. So I will run through them. Just so you know, we have evaluated a long list of improvements that we've received feedback from you on. And Google has actually also, a conversation specialist at Google has helped us with an analysis of our website to look at how it's been built, but also on the design and from a user experience perspective to give us feedback on some things that we could be improving on. We've of course also looked at Google Analytics, at the data, how we are performing. And then of course our knowledge of user-friendly experience. So first, I want to say that the search is something that we for sure will be improving. This search is when you go from the top, for example, at the website, you end up on this. We will be optimizing the search for if you're looking for something from an author that is not working very well today, but will be working better after we've done this optimization. You will actually be able to write the name in the search field and get the content authored by that person. We will also be able to do some curation for some of the search terms. What that means is that we will be able to choose some content items to always sit at the top if someone searches for a specific search term. And this is something that I will need your help with defining what are those content items that we want to be displayed at a certain search terms. We will also be optimizing the searching and filtering on the hub pages. What I mean is if you go to, for example, the publication section, at the end, further down on the page, you get to this listing and you have this search and filtering options. Here as well, we will use or optimize for searching for authors. We know that it hasn't been very easy. It isn't easy today. So we will fix that. We will also be fixing and adding some missing filters that we are aware of. For example, the language filter on center work pages are missing. So we'll be adding that. What you will also see is we'll use active filters, as it's called. What it means is that if I have chosen topic air, I will actually get, that will be displayed here saying air with an X next to it, so I can actually see what I've chosen as a filter and deselect it if I wanted to. Profile pages. I've received a lot of information from you on this, and thank you for that, that it's not working as it should. So, first of all, we will be adding featured stories as one of the content items that will be displayed on your profile pages. What we will also do is, if you click the view more at one of these, you will actually get to a search result page showing exactly your items on that content type. It hasn't been working well today, or it isn't working well today, but we will be fixing that before the summer. Yeah. A featured story would be any kind of story that previously ended up in the news section. So we have no news anymore, so the question was what are the featured stories, an example of that. So the news are today called featured stories, and they are being displayed on the section that it is connected to. So if it's a featured story on a publication, you will find it, for example, at the top of the publication section, but on the home page we also have a component at the bottom to some of the highlighted featured stories and a link to all the featured stories.
And also topic and subtopic.
And on topics and subtopics, of course, you get to find those that are related to the topics and subtopics. So this is something that, of course, is very important for us. Callouts, we will be changing some of the information in the callouts. Sorry. This is a callout, this is a callout, and this is a callout. These are 3 callouts. The metadata in here are all of these. What we will do is we will remove all the green colors on the icons, because the green color draws your eye to the icons, and we want them, of course, to focus on the content, then the text and the headings. So we'll be removing the green color, and we will have them in charcoal instead. Do some designing on that, and make sure that those, because the green color today shows you which ones are clickable, and we will have those that are clickable in underlining instead, which is a very common way of doing it. We will be redesigning the initiative component. The initiative components today are pretty much a workaround, because the component that we did in the phase of designing the website wasn't working when we got to actually using the real content. It's just something that happens when you build a complex website. So this is showing the initiative component on the home page, and then we have another solution on the topic page where we try to show the initiatives. Now, so this will be redesigned by Benne. It will be done in August. What we have also received information and feedback from you on is that we also want to be highlighting some projects, especially on the topic pages, not only the initiatives. So we will ensure that the initiative component can also hold projects. So we'll be working on that and coming back to you when we have more details. And we have a lot of more changes that will happen, and I'm not going to we don't have time to go through them all. But these, you can see some of them here. For example, highlighting current section. So in the header on the website, you can if you go to the publication section, you should be seeing it as highlighted in the navigation. We'll add some metadata, meta properties for analytics for us to be able to deliver better reports to you. And some detailed things, but something that I also have received from you is that we wanted to take out the why is that? Oh, it's on the next slide. Sorry, subheading. So this is showing a subtopic page, and in here you can see that it says, so we're on the finance topic page. And the heading here says first economy, finance, and climate finance. Because we did build this great dynamic structure. So if I come to the finance page from the economy topic, I end up seeing related content, finance content related to economy, and further down something else. But if I came from climate, I would see finance content related to climate at the top. But what we will do is remove the subheadings because they're kind of confusing. People don't need to know that we're doing this in the background. And for your information, next steps, what we will be doing is we'll be conducting some user testing to ensure that we're not only getting your feedback, but actually seeing, get some feedback from external people of what they feel about our website. We'll also do some A/B testing where you test version A towards version B and see which one performs the best. This will be done in fall. And we will have a topic and subtopic assessment in October, November. I know that some have some feelings about the way it's been structured today. We wanted to have 61 different topics in the heading, and that navigation that doesn't really work. So that's why we have only those that we have. And there will be a decision taken by the executive team. I just wanted to mention that kind of decision when it comes to a really high structured change, if needed, that decision will be taken at the executive team. And of course, we'll be continuing to do some analysis of the performance of the website. So we have 10 minutes, and I'm of course very eager to hear your feedback and if you have any questions. So please. Yes.
Thanks for a very interesting presentation. Thanks a lot for this great presentation. It's really nice to see what's being done with the stuff we write and how it's put out there, and that's really wonderful. I have two questions. The first one is there some kind of strategy around ResearchGate linked to the branding, digital content, website, communication overall plan? And the other one is the first study that was done, so the study that ended the first phase of the digital redesign, is it available anywhere? Can we learn about the outcome of this study?
Yes, I think so. We have an end report first. I'll take the second question first. Thank you for the question. We have an end report that I could be distributing. It's 90 pages long, but you're most welcome to read it. Absolutely. And on ResearchGate, we've had to say that we're not having ResearchGate in scope of what we do right now. We don't have the resources. We are fully aware that it's something. It's a great platform and something that we could probably work better with. We're gonna have to take it a little bit further in the future. But thank you. Other questions? Ian, do you have any questions on the chat?
No, it's just been small questions that I've been able to answer directly here.
Okay, good. Brenda?
My question is regarding the publications or feature stories that some of the examples you've given, Misha, that have really worked well. Mm-hmm. And I know that in the first week you give a lot more pushing for them, but then are there any opportunities to sort of repost those stories in the future, like after a couple of months, or is it that after the 1 week shelf life, that story is gone like forever? In terms of,
Yeah.
Is my mic on? Yes. Yes, that's a great point. So some content, it makes sense to keep sharing it after some time, right? And one of the things that we can do on Twitter is we can always link back to older pieces of work, especially on SEI research, not so much on SEI climate, which we have a very time-sensitive audience who are expecting very new content. But on SEI research, we can absolutely link back to older pieces of content on the website. One of the limitations with how that will affect how they're rated as effective is that it's very difficult to say, let's say one piece of content was really popular in its first week and then it died off and then we post it again later and maybe it picks up again. It's going to be very difficult to compare that against all of the other content that's being posted because content's being posted at different times. We've got a reporting period. It's tricky. Especially with things like perspectives. So perspectives, for those who aren't familiar with the way that we've merged that from the old site, are blog posts, op-eds, and pieces with some analysis, insight. It's not really an announcement, it's more of a opinion or analysis. That sort of content, definitely, it makes sense to be linking back to it. Publications also make sense to be linking back to it, but it makes more sense when there's a news angle to it. So Yes, but it's kind of complicated. We can definitely talk more about individual pieces. Yeah.
And of course, it's also great to do that if there's a specific topic happening. I mean, if there's an event on a specific topic, then we should, of course, be sharing content on that topic. And it might not at all be dependent on if it's a new or a year old. So most definitely on SEI research.
And maybe it would make sense to do a 3-monthly or a 6-monthly report on some of the content that has performed the best over a longer period. Because what I've been seeing in these reports is that, yes, some of the things that you see in here have been very popular in the month, but they sort of drop off. I see someone in the room that I'm just going to call out here and say that, Annalie, your piece, the perspective on the storytelling research that was done, I think was the #1 piece of content overall since we launched the website. And we've seen a sort of, unlike other pieces of content, it's sort of maintained interest over time. So that's the sort of content that it would probably appear in this report, but over a 3-month period, it would be really interesting to see and pull lessons out of that as well. So that's maybe something else we could do.